gonna lie to you, that intro, pretty inspiring. I'm ready to run through a wall. Let's go. Week 8, all 32 pod. Mike Giardi, Will Parkinson alongside. A reminder, the show brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. And Game Time, best tickets, best prices to get you in to see any event you want to see. And there's, of course, a lot to see. Will and I use them both. We love it. Let's get right into it, Will, because worlds collide. Jets, Patriots for the second time this season, and both teams going in the wrong direction. Patriots, of course, have lost 6 in a row. They're now 1-6. And the Jets, they have dropped 4 in a row after that big win over the Patriots on that Thursday night, which seems like an eternity ago, and are currently 2-5. Jets haven't swept the Patriots since 2000. And as I was sitting here getting ready for this pod, Will, some numbers came up to me about Aaron Rodgers' season. And statistically, it's been pointed out that maybe this is the worst season of his career, at least through this point, averaging just 6.5 yards per attempt, 10-7 touchdown to interception ratio, and an 82.2 passer rating. So I ask you, Will, we'll start right there. How much of what's happened to the Jets offense is about the quarterback?
Yeah, it's funny. When we left, we recorded, I guess, Friday morning after that week 3 game, and the Jets were like, wow, they're going to win this division pretty easily. Yep. And the Patriots sucked. And then now we've kind of got back to both teams might suck. Yeah. I would say, you did the blame pie, the Mike and Mike, WFAN, original days of, that and the win-loss, win-win-loss game. Aaron Rodgers shares some of the blame for sure. I think that his turnovers, it's been weird. It's not a normal, look, guys throw interceptions all the time. Like it's, Josh Allen's, is usually, except for this year, usually is, mid-teens, and the Dax and Trevor Lawrence and guys that are like considered very good quarterbacks in this league, obviously at varying degrees. Mahomes, 8 turnovers or 8 picks already this year. Every time Rodgers throws a pick, it feels like it's immediately 7 points for their team. Like they've all been end of game or almost returned for touchdowns, which is so rare in Rodgers' career. So he's missed some stuff over the middle. He's gotten a little antsy. I don't think he's the main problem, but I don't think he's been a big enough solution thus far. Tyron Smith has fallen off a cliff in the last 4 weeks out of nowhere. He got like really old out of nowhere. He's lunging and missing guys, getting beat with speed. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if apparently he's the back. He's, we'll see. But the run blocking mixed with all the guys around him until I guess a week or two ago had kind of been really disappointing outside of Lazard, right? Like Breece Hall didn't look like Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson has not looked like Garrett Wilson overall. Then the run blocking has been poor. So all that combined with Nate Hackett for the first 6 weeks, Rodgers not being the ultimate savior, has mixed with an offense that leaves you. And we talked about this on Monday or Tuesday's episode. They're not a bad offense. There's a lot of talent, and some of the play calls are not bad. Every single play, someone does something that screws the entire other 11. I know football is the ultimate team game, but like no team embodies that better than the 2024 Jets, where quite literally, if a single guy makes a mistake, it like blows up in their face, right? Everything's perfect. The perfect encapsulation of the Jets season so far is that wheel route to Garrett Wilson, perfectly blocked, perfect throw, a player that you can count on that's a budding superstar in this league, has the ball hit him in the chest for no reason, and then it bounces 155 feet in the air, and it gets returned to the 1-yard line, and the game crumbled. So, Rodgers, I think, is to blame for sure, maybe 30-40% of it, because the quarterback is a huge part of it, but I don't think he's been overall bad. He just has not been a top 10 guy consistently, and the Jets kind of were expecting him to be at least a top 15, if not top 10 guy.
You mentioned the sort of the players not elevating, and we saw Breece Hall step up and look more like Breece Hall in that last game against the Steelers, despite it being a lopsided game. And I just go back to week 3, for as good as Rodgers was in that game, and Patriots' inability to keep him inside the tackle box. He ran around, made some plays with his legs, extended plays, and threw the ball down the field. Their ability to run started this trend against the Patriots where everybody's getting – well, now everybody's getting 170, 180, 190 against the Patriots, but it's been 5 straight games, starting with the Jets game. It's 120 plus on the ground for opposing teams. Can they get back to that with the way the line looks and the way maybe they haven't necessarily been running the ball with force, can they get back to that against the Patriots, who again this week this would be now the 6th week in a row, are insisting, look, it's a little thing here, it's a little thing there, but we're going to get it fixed. We got to get it fixed, and this is when it starts this week against the Jets.
Yeah, something that you just mentioned there, that one big factor, and I think Rodgers' play, I thought he was pretty good against Buffalo, all things considered. I thought Pittsburgh, the second quarter was good, but overall, obviously, not his best game. I think Pittsburgh and Minnesota and Denver, the 3 games where you're like, ooh, he looks old. Minnesota game, he got pretty banged up. I mean, I think we all, you texted me, and I got plenty of them.
Yeah.
That might be it. That might be a career for Rodgers. And what a shame, man. Like, right, he was a week and a half removed from that Patriots game where he was prime Rodgers. I mean, he was moving around, making plays with his legs. He's got a tweaked hamstring. Again, something you expect for a guy who has not played, right? Like, I'm not surprised by that. The knee he got rolled up on, and he plays through that. I don't think that's a problem. It's the low ankle sprain that I think is hampering him right now. And an ankle sprain for anybody is hard, but when you're a guy that's like trying to fully retrust your body again, it doesn't make it easy. And he just hasn't moved as much. Jeff Ulbrich talked about it. I mean, they desperately they got 2 games here in 4 days. They do need to win both, and they need to at least win one. They need to win 3 of 4, if not 4 of 4, which is doable. But it's also, until they do it, no one's going to believe them, right? Like, it's show me, don't tell me anymore. But Rodgers needs that mini bye and the actual bye week badly. I think he needs a reset. A lot of this Jets team does. They're pretty banged up. I think the injury report was like 17 guys yesterday. They couldn't even practice. Like, they literally did a full speed walkthrough, because Jeff Ulbricht's like, we need to get reps and we need these guys to try to practice, which is actually really appreciated the honesty. He was just like, our entire secondary and a majority of our defense is not healthy enough to do a full speed practice on a Tuesday. It's like, oh, okay. That sucks,
Perfect.
but at least you're being honest.
Right.
Yeah, but I think Rodgers desperately needs at least one of these injuries to heal, because it's limiting him movement wise. And then the offense, like, their scheme isn't so good that they're just going to get guys open. So like, Rodgers not being able to freelance has definitely hurt him the last 2 weeks. I feel like a little bit.
I'm curious, in the first meeting, Christian Gonzalez was basically traveling with Garrett Wilson. Now you add Devontae Adams to the mix. It didn't look awesome. Obviously, he'd been there for all of 5 days or whatever, 6 days before he had to play his first game. Having gone back and watched it, what did you think of Adams's performance? And do you think like there's a lot of meat on that bone for this week?
Yeah, he was open a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I had thought the first play of the game encapsulated what that thing was going to look like, because Devontae hadn't played in 3 weeks. As much as they have great chemistry, and I think the playbook wasn't a problem, and Rodgers hitting him wasn't a problem, but you're not used to the way guys move right away. You need a little bit, more than 4 days. He played almost every single snap. The Rodgers the play of the game that changed it, Rodgers had Devontae in the slot fade. Again, I thought encapsulating again that 11 guys and 10 do the right thing. Great play call. It was a 3rd and 4, I believe, around the 40-ish yard line. I want to say maybe it was a little closer. Maybe it was around the 30. Jets ran a form of mesh. Devontae is the late crosser, and Devontae could still be running amidst his whole speech. Like, he'd be running right through his speech, and the Jets probably wouldn't like him. And Aaron has him. I mean, it's a 7-yard dump off, but Tyron Smith gets beat with speed by Alex Highsmith, and Rodgers rushed it. He didn't want to, like any quarterback, didn't want to get hit. He rushed his feet and he skipped it. And I remember going, oh my God, Devontae has been open all night. I think it'll look much better. Kay Adams asked Devontae on her show this week about Gonzalez, and he kind of was like, yeah, we'll see. If I personally was the Patriots, I would make sure to take Garrett Wilson out of the game entirely, because as much as he struggled, he seems to be a 3rd down guy for them. He seems to be a guy that when he's going, they're rolling. There's the dog. There we go. But no, I think personally that, a guy like Gonzalez, if you take Garrett Wilson out and you can bracket Devontae, that Belichick method of take out the number 2 with your best guy and then let your other 2 guys man up against your 1. That's probably what I would do if I was playing the Jets right now.
Patriots have a size problem at corner, especially as it relates to this Jets team. And we saw it in the first one where you're cycling through guys trying to figure out how to cover Lazard and Mike Williams. And not that either guy had like these monster numbers. It was actually Ty Conklin who went bananas in that game, right? But that John Jones at 5'9" and 5'8" or whatever he is, and Marcus Jones at 5'8", 180, like had a hard time taking him to the ground when they got the ball. And we saw they ended up going to Alex Austin, who hasn't really been dressing for the Patriots here for the last month or so, to try to get a little bit more size on the field and deal with him that way. And so now you add Adams to the mix, who's not a small guy, not a monster receiver, but not a small guy. And it's just like Gonzalez is their biggest corner. I'm not sure how they figure out the proper way to match
the one thing
up.
with I guess the counter to my argument would be Garrett's not been playing well. And Aaron, after Devontae made this whole rousing speech, and I'm curious your thoughts on it from just the outside point of view of a guy 5 days in the locker room coming in and basically saying this culture sucks.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't wrong.
Right.
That's for damn sure. But just curious on that. But if you put Gonzalez on Adams, do you say Rodgers is going to have to force it to Garrett, who's not playing with confidence right now? We think we could force an interception. Maybe that's the move because, Devontae is still, 6'2", 210, 220. And like his footwork, I mean, that's no joke of a matchup. Although, we look at Stephon Diggs, who's a smaller version of Devontae in a lot of ways, that route runner. It's not going to burn you with speed. Yep. Gonzalez didn't have his best afternoon there. So I don't know. I'm not sure the plan. But if I'm the Patriots, if Rodgers isn't healthy, I know they blitzed him a ton last time and it bit them, but it's because Rodgers moves really well. If he's not going to move well on Sunday afternoon, maybe you go to that method and just say, hopefully we force one or two and he gets restless, because the Broncos Vikings game and specific, he struggled with pressure, which is something he's never really done in the past. But again, at the current state of his body, I'm not sure pressure is the best.
It's one of the things I had in my notes, that if I'm the Patriots, just based on how he's looked and physically what he's dealing with currently, you got to go after him. And he just, and if he stands up to it and makes some plays off it, then you can sort of adjust on the fly. But I would think that that'd be a big part of how you'd want to approach this game and how you'd want to approach that player. In New England, as we tape this on a Thursday afternoon, the big story of the day, a big old team meeting on Thursday morning. I mean, you're talking about Devontae giving the post-game speech. Well, the Patriots had that, not only with the coach calling them soft and then trying to walk it back, but John Jones, who's been on the team for 9 years, as solid a dude as you want, a terrific professional. He felt the need after the game in London to air out some grievances in the locker room and give what was described as a fiery speech. And we talked to him today, and he just said, I just felt like enough was enough. And that sort of has carried over into this week, where there has been, yet again, a lot of noise. And this is what happens, Will, as you're seeing when you lose 4 in a row, there's a lot of chatter. The Patriots have lost 6 in a row and have been getting their butts kicked in pretty much that entire time. And you had, Mayo having to deal with the fallout from the soft comments, players having to answer questions about their coach saying that about them. And then you had the social media post from Jalen Polk, who's currently on concussion protocol. Probably it seems unlikely that he'll play. Well, I guess we'll see Friday if he practices, but has not practiced this week. And then KJ Osborne.
He might need a week to mentally reset.
I think I thought last week was the week to do it. And then you have this, and I think it is time. This is probably, I mean, you're not wishing a concussion on anybody, but if there's a chance to just catch your breath maybe and go sit over there and just chill, this might be the week for it. But then you had KJ Osborne retweeting this business associate of his who's saying, you're such a pro because they didn't tell you were dressing until 11 o'clock at night on Saturday night before this game. And you still went out there and caught a touchdown. And I know this isn't going great for you, bro. And hang in there. We'll do our best to get you out of there. And so on Wednesday, Chris Mason, a reporter for Mass Live, and yours truly went up to KJ at his locker. And second question Chris asked was, do you want to be traded? And he said, laughing, that's like an alley-oop. Laughing some more. Chris kind of looked at me like, did he said that? Yeah, he said that. And I gave him a chance a couple questions later and said, you didn't say yes, you want to be traded, but you didn't say no. And it certainly seemed way more yes than no. And he didn't. He's like, I'm here now. I'll rock with it now. But he clearly would like a change of scenery. So you have that. And then they have this team meeting where the gist of it is, again, mostly focused on the wide receiver room. And there are some young players that are just, whether it's immaturity, lack of professionalism, which you want to combine those two because sometimes one does go with the other, that the message was like, you guys got to stop worrying about your stats and your targets and worry about putting in the work, taking care of your body, studying your playbook, getting your rehab, doing all the things that you need to do to be a pro so that when you get to the game on Sunday, you're at your physical and mental best. And that has been a problem. It has continued to deteriorate. And the fact of the matter is, I wrote about this today in the Boston Sports Journal, is, and this isn't a first guess, we've talked about this for months and months with the way they built the team. But then when you add the injuries on top of some of the stuff that's happened, there is such a leadership void on this football team that you have someone like John Jones, who is a leader, but by action having to speak up because he's seeing things that he doesn't like. And Kendrick Bourne, who obviously was rehabbing the knee, couldn't have the same sort of influence over the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season until he got back on the field with these guys. And now you're okay. Now I'm seeing what's happening. I'm over in London and I'm seeing what's happening and I don't like what's happening. And now he's trying to, like, guys, we gotta get this together. Because if you keep putting in minimal effort and the other team is doing everything they can to win the game and you're not, then guess what? You get exactly what we've got, which is 6 losses in a row. So this is another sort of, they've had multiple quote unquote come to Jesus moments this season, and none of them have worked so far. And this seems like it's down the playbook, like, oh, well, it's not going well, struggling team. Let's have the team meeting and hopefully that turns it. But it's, you've dealt with this in with the Jets too. It's just like when you're having these conversations and you're like, I don't know, these things generally don't work.
Yeah, no, this is a matchup where this obviously the Patriots season again for the 800th time they're not going to be a playoff team, but you'd like to see some improvement. You'd like to see them not get blown off the field at home, division rival. You'd like to see them keep it close, even if they lose the way they lost to Miami. Yeah, disgusting game or not, like, at least play a division rival close. Comes down to the end. If they beat you, they beat you. The Jets have all the pressure in the world now. They cannot lose this game. This season will. You want to talk about cratering and stuff going out of control. Look, I think both teams are kind of looking for answers in different ways. Team meetings to me are usually a last chance. Can something spark here? They work sometimes, they don't others. I think the fact that we're having a conversation about Gerard Mayo and the purse sources, I don't know what that was or what that wasn't. The fact that on NBC and every sports channel in Boston, they're having a conversation. Is Gerard Mayo going to make it through the year already? And we haven't even gotten to Halloween. It's pretty brutal. And on the Jets side, like, again, it's a team that the talent's there. The coaching staff on offense is not great. We know that, but this team should be a lot better. And the fact that Devontae Adams after 4 days was like, this is horrible. And I got to fix this now, because if I don't say something, like, we might crater, seem to be received well. I don't necessarily have a problem with it personally. I know he hasn't been there that long, and a lot of talk was, how are the veterans in the room going to feel? I don't know, man. Devontae's a 4 or 5 time All-Pro, and he's seen there, done that. Like, he's been a part of a winning culture in Green Bay, and I don't think CJ Mosley and Quinn Williams are going to be offended by it. Like, I don't see it as that. I see it as guys like the Garrett Wilsons, the Sauce Gardners, the even an Alan Lazard or an Elijah Vera Tucker, whoever it may be, guys that come from winning programs or played with these guys in the past, but maybe kind of got a little lazy or a little bit laissez-faire, and it's just going to happen for us. The Jets' biggest issue right now is overcoming. Everyone told them last year, including probably myself, they just needed the quarterback. Everything else would be fine. They just need the quarterback. And that's not true. They were still a 7-win team. They maybe would have been a 9 or 10-win team. They were not a 12 or 13-win team. They added a lot. But I guess the last point here is, like, I think they finally realized that, like, yeah, Aaron's going to be better the rest of the year. Like, he's not going to play as badly as he's played. But who knows if he'll get back to the level that everyone's hoping. These other guys got to step up, right? Like, this is not going to be the Aaron show. This is going to be he's an integral piece. But it's going to start Sunday for them. And again, if they struggle on Sunday, you're going to start to see a very loud and mouthy locker room.
You know as well as I do that if the Jets lose to this Patriot team, the way this Patriot team is playing after all the stuff that's come out on the Patriots this just last 4 days, it is going to be an absolute free-for-all in terms of the way they're going to get treated by the media, and they'll, that aggressive sector of the fan base is going to lose their minds. People need to be fired, traded, retired. That's what's going to happen. It's interesting because here in New England, Boston used to be like, oh, you don't want to play in Boston. The writers are terrible. Fans are terrible. It's never good enough. It's kind of become a pussycat sort of like, there's a lot of people that cover the Patriots that just want to say they cover the Patriots. There's a lot of people that cover the Patriots that are fans, and you can be a fan of football, but when you're covering the team, you need to be objective about the team that you're covering and what's good and what's bad, and don't like hide the bad because you just want to talk about the good because you think the wide receiver is going to hang out with you. I got news for you, people on the beat. They're not hanging out with us. That's not how it works. Okay, when they're going to go out at night, they ain't going to call you and tell you, "Hey, come on, we're going to go to such and such." Like
it's because you don't drink your tequila like I do. That's
I like my tequila.
That's the truth. It's the truth.
But I think, quite frankly, for all the noise that's come out of New England, I think they've actually gotten off pretty easy. Like I think if this was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, this would be on the back page of everything. It's leading some sports radio, but the Celtics, no one would care. No one would care.
Part of it's Mayo, in my opinion. I think that
I think he has relationships with people.
And he doesn't treat everybody like crap. And I think that's the one thing. That's the one thing with Bill.
He's not blowing snot at us.
Look at the way Saleh was treated, getting fired. I've never seen a coach get defended like that for having won 20 of 56 games, but he treated the media really well, and people are going to have his back. And I think people were happy to dunk on Bill as soon as he started to go wrong, because there was 20 years of him telling you, you're not bleep, I'm Bill Belichick. So, this is one of those games on Sunday, It's not a fun slate. It's not, we've had a couple of weeks in a row where it's been like, me and you have been like, how do we trim this down to 5 or 6 games? This is the opposite. It's like, how do we find 5 games that are even relevant? And this one is relevant because if the Jets can win this game, they start to become a little bit more relevant again. If Drake Maye goes out there and gets his first win, that's relevant. Some of these rookie quarterbacks have had really nice starts to their career. And Drake Maye's numbers are good, but has obviously played one difficult game, one easy game that was unfortunate. Again, I'd really like to see, if I'm a Patriots fan, can you be competitive Sunday, and then can you go win against Tennessee? If you can do that, now you're starting to, let's work with something here. If you're the Jets, you say, it's a bad mentality to have because it's not going to be this way likely. But I'd be like, hey, we should have won the first game 48-3. Like, we need to go out there and literally lay down a marker and build some confidence here, because they got Houston coming in 4 days. Houston's beat up, and their offensive line and Stroud's not playing well, and the whole thing, and that's all great. But they're 2-5 right now, and they're a team that probably has to go at minimum 8-3 the rest of the way or 7-3 or 8-2. The rest of the way to make the playoffs, and they're favored in 9 of the 10 games, and the whole thing. Go do it, because the fan base is over. It's a lot of show me, don't tell me. I think that's the same with the Patriots. Stop telling me that you're not soft and all this stuff. Go not give up 150 yards rushing. That's
exactly. And you know what? It's again, I think if you went into the season, you knew they weren't going to win a lot of football games. If you're being honest with yourself, just based on the roster, it's a whole new coaching staff, inexperienced coaching staff, first-year head coach, first-year defensive coordinator, guy calling plays for the first time since 2009. But to get beat by double digits and just to be getting stomped like this is problematic. I do want to just quickly, Drake Maye, first quarterback since 1950 with 500 plus yards passing, 5 or more touchdown passes, and 50 or more rushing yards in his first 2 starts. So whatever, it's easier to throw the ball in the league than it used to be and all that stuff, but cool. First guy since 1950 to do that. And his processing was pretty good the other day. His footwork's getting better. You saw a lot of the ex-quarterbacks, Orlovsky and Chase Daniel, kind of highlighting some of the improvement that they've seen there. He has been the breath of fresh air in what has been a very stale and stinky season. for the New England Patriots. Let's hear from one of our sponsors, of course, the great Prize Picks, and we're going to give you our picks to end the program. Will, so think about what you want here.
Yeah.
I got mine in front of me. Look, this is the fantasy app that you got to use. Just download it. It's incredible. Pick between 2 and 6 players. You can win up to 100 times your money. Just download the app today. Use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, code CLNS, and you get $50 after you play just $5. You don't even have to win the $5. You're getting 50. It's like free money. Who doesn't like free money? And then if you're good at this, you jump into it. For instance, I'm riding the wave of the Brock Purdy, more rushing yards. Like he's always around 8, 9 rushing yards, but boy, he seems to get outside the tackle box once or twice a game. And the next thing you know, he's rushed for 15 yards. So you kind of look for the little spots there where you can be behind you guys. If you thought, for instance, Devontae Adams is going to go nuts in this game because Rodgers, he made the statement, and now we're going to do it. You pick more yards, you pick more receptions, and there you go. So again, just download the app, Prize Picks, run your game. That's what they do. That's what you want to do. Let's move on to our non-backyard game. The 3-4 Bengals hosting the 4-2 Eagles. It's the first meeting ever between Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. Both came in the league in 2020, but the first time they will play against each other. I want to start with the Eagles because we've talked about this all year, a schizophrenic team. 1 week, it looks like, okay, this team's dangerous. They'll be a tough out. And then the next week, what the hell just happened? We talked about Sirianni coming unglued 2 weeks ago and yelling at people behind the bench and bringing his kids up as a human shield in the press conference, like just really foolish, immature stuff. He apologized for it, but whatever. It's a repeated behavior. So I kind of take the apology with a grain of salt, whatever. But I think this is a big game for the Eagles. And I understand the Bengals at 3-4. They need as many wins as possible after getting off the start. But the Eagles need to start establishing that consistency, which they haven't been able to do. And I think, to me, there's 2 things here with the Eagles. One, when their defensive line is getting after it, and they got after Daniel Jones, and again, I get the Giants' offensive line's a dumpster fire, but like Daniel Jones was under siege from the first play of the game on, and he ends up getting replaced. And say what you want about Daniel Jones, but like it was relentless. They were in the backfield constantly. He's hitting the 5th step on his drop, and it's I got to get the hell out of here already. There's already traffic at my feet or something coming from the edge, and when that group plays like that. The secondary, which is working in some young players and good young players, but again, just there's some youth. And then you have a guy like Darius Slay who's a little older. You're still trying to figure that whole process out. It just makes life so much easier for them. So when those guys are attacking like that and creating that kind of pressure, it's so difficult for opposing offenses. And we can say what you want about Burrow and how cool he is, but they've got offensive line issues. Orlando Brown's been hurt. Trent Brown's done for the year. Marius Mims, their first rounder, is having to play. And he's actually done a good job, a solid job, but it's not outstanding. He's going to get tested. And if they can't hold up, then Burrow can't distribute to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who currently are both of them are going nuts right now. So that to me is start one. Like if I'm looking at this game, I'm looking, can Zach Taylor and that offense and that offensive line in particular figure out a way to slow down that pass rush or neutralize that pass rush? Because if they don't, then it's going to be hard for Joe to do what he's been doing the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. It's a big game for Philly and kind of establishing some consistency here. I think it's a big game for Cincinnati to kind of show me something like
win a game you're not supposed technically you're not supposed to.
They've started to, they've started to stack wins, right? But like kind of 7-point win against Cleveland with DTR and Watson doesn't really move you. Could be argued they should have lost that Giants game, right? The Giants played better than them, I feel like, on both sides of the football. I just, Daniel Jones is allergic to scoring touchdowns. That's a whole nother problem. And then they beat Carolina, and those wins don't move you, right? There's probably 3 of the 5 worst teams in the NFL, or 3 of the 7 worst teams, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't think Philly's great, but I still think this is stiff competition. And again, it's at a conference, so does it kill you tiebreaker wise? No, but like you lose this one, now you're 3-5. You still got Baltimore again. You still got Pittsburgh twice. You still got Cleveland again, and who knows what Cleveland will be down the road. Maybe they get hot here with, maybe they get a little bit more competitive with a different quarterback and the cancer kind of out of the building, or even cancer really. It's more of just like just a negative energy, and it's So like, I don't know. I think to me, I want to see if Cincinnati's like, are they as good as we all expected them to be, or are they kind of just going to be a team every week where it's like, hey, if the offense gets hot, they'll win some games, and if not, and then from the Eagles side of things, like it feels like now with AJ back, Saquon rolling, Hurts is playing a little bit better. They're still getting, they're getting their guys killed, back there in Hurts, but Cincinnati's defense isn't great. I think this is a big run the football game. Try to wear down this defense a little bit, and take your shots with with AJ and those guys over the top when you have an opportunity. Get back to kind of that Eagles brand of football. So if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm going to this game saying like, we can put up points on this defense. This pass rush, as you mentioned, is the key to this game, and I think it's the key to the rest of the season for the Eagles, because early on they all look terrible. Carter and Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat and Graham and all these. It's like, really, like every one of these guys, a first round pick or a high
look like that.
Yeah, like this is one of the 5 most talented groups on paper in the league. And then last week, I felt like you finally were like, oh, and against the Giants, so we'll see, but damn impressive. And Bryce Huff's now got a sack in back-to-back games. Nolan Smith's starting to have some moments. We've seen Josh Sweat have his moments in the league, and like Jalen Carter's got. So now it's like, hey man, if Bryce Huff starts to get cooking, okay, that's your $15 million, $20 million edge rusher you were hoping to come in and replace Hassan Reddick. Like that starts rolling. Those young guys get more and more reps. Sirianni, just stay out of the way. Please just do nothing. Literally sit on the sideline and do nothing, and the Eagles will be okay. So this is one of those interesting. It'll be an interesting game in my opinion for sure.
Yeah, just one other thing from the Eagles' perspective. There's still something about the offense, right? And I said it. I think I've said it on this pod before. I was convinced after 2 years ago, after he went toe-to-toe with Mahomes in the Super Bowl, that Jalen Hurts was going to be a top 5, top 6 quarterback. Loved his poise, his decision-making, everything. It just seemed like it just came together for the guy. Really talented dude. He figured it out. And then last year happened. And there was a disconnect between him and the team. And they go through 2 coordinators. And now they're on another coordinator. And I just don't think he sees it that great. And I think that in some ways they've had to simplify their passing offense because of it. And it's constantly now just sort of hunting, where's AJ? If AJ has a one-on-one, that's where I'm going. And it's almost as if Devontae Smith is so good. And I feel like sometimes he's underutilized because it's just not the way that Hurts plays. Unless they're telling him.
He feels very one readish still.
Yes.
It's
yes.
still
And
not.
That was a knock on him coming out. And he convinced me otherwise in that year. And I guess I got swept up in the hype because
I'll be honest, I was being a hater during that year for sure. And I feel somewhat vindicated just because I feel like a lot of, and it sounds terrible, but a lot of Jalen's career has kind of been like, he's almost there. He's almost that guy. Like he just is always close, and it doesn't, someone else is better, or it gets passed up. And like, it shouldn't be a dick, but his college career was very much similar. And
sneaky thing about him too, he ran it so well 2 years ago. He didn't run it like that anymore. I know he had rushing touchdowns this last game, but I'm talking about from a sheer speed standpoint. He used to get around the edge. Now it's like he can't get there.
Yeah, like Lamar, if you notice, like obviously these guys, after you get paid, you're gonna try to take less hits no matter what.
Yeah.
But like Lamar's 10% less. The way he runs is very different than the way he ran 3-4 years ago, for sure. But he's still so effective, and like he's developed so much as a passer, and you're still just so scared of him beating with his legs. He's not going to beat you really for 75. I don't feel like anymore. But like he's going to cut you deep for 20, 3 or 4 times, and you're like, that's almost worse. Jalen used to be like, you can't play man coverage against them because he's just going to leak out of the pocket. And now I feel like you have to blitz him because he's going to just keep taking hits and throwing interception. Like, it's not that he's a bad quarterback. I just think he's kind of comfortably settled into like Baker, that class of Baker and Kirk and those guys where it's like any given week, they can lose you a football game. They can also win you one, and they can get hot, and they're still good. They're worth paying, but I don't know. Like I just look at some of the games this year with Kirk, or even look at Baker last week against Lamar. It's like the turnovers and stuff. I don't know what Jalen, like, I watched him in person last year for the first time in my career, and it was probably one of his worst games. So, like, granted, but I feel like the processing's not fast, and then he's not using his legs as much anymore. So, like, yeah, he's hard to bring down, but it feels like it's easier and easier to get pressure on him than it was 3 years ago. And he's not an old guy by any means. He hasn't had this massive injury. It's just been maybe it's a accumulation of a lot of hits you take in college and stuff. Is it more of a mobile quarterback? I don't know. He's good, but I don't look at him anymore in that class. I look at him more, like I said, in that, I don't know, 12 to 16 range, where it's like, good, they're a franchise guy, but they're not elite, which is a kind of a tough spot to live.
All right, let's move on to an interesting one. Bills 5-2 visit the first place in the NFC West, the first place Seattle Seahawks, who are 4-3. You mentioned it at the very beginning. You just kind of slid it. Josh Allen has not thrown an interception this year, which is insane. Nice little quick chemistry build with Amari Cooper, catches the touchdown pass in his first game. Those two, one would assume, will be even better this week against Seattle. I think that when we talked about the trade, Cooper's presence, it's the baseball term, it lengthened the lineup, right? Now Coleman or Shakir doesn't have to try to be a one. They're not, and maybe Coleman will be one day, but he's not certainly now as a rookie. And now all of a sudden you have this depth amongst your pass catching group where you have Shakir, who obviously has built great trust with Josh over the last couple seasons and is a really nice player. Nice player, not a great player, but a nice player. Coleman's had his moments already this season. Then you add Cooper to the mix, and then Dalton Kincaid, who's a terrific pass-catching tight end, and Dawson Knox, who had been limited in his use in terms of the passing game. But now all of a sudden you have these 5 or 6 guys that you're looking at saying, okay, if he's on the field and he's playing at the level that he's capable of, which he's played, he played at last year. This year wasn't great in Cleveland, but last year he was that guy.
Yeah.
That it creates a tension that opens up opportunities for these other players. And you saw it last week, right? I mean, it took them a little while to get going against Tennessee, but when they did, everything opened up for Josh. And it was get to the 5th step in the drop, little hitch, boom, ball's out. And that's not usually, having watched Josh as much as I have over the last 5-6 years, that's not usually how it goes. It hasn't gone that way with that offense at times. It's sort of get there, no one's open, run around, create, break tackles, make plays, that sort of thing. This was different. And not that Josh isn't going to do all that stuff that I was talking about, but it goes to show you they tried it a certain way, realized it wasn't good enough. And if Cooper can be even that sort of presence there on the outside, it makes things so much better for that offense.
Yeah, I'm just curious, kind of both these teams I feel like have been pretty damn week to week. And Buffalo, first 3 weeks, unstoppable.
Yep.
They get smoked 2 weeks in a row. Again, I guess they didn't technically get smoked against Houston, but I feel like they were nowhere near the Buffalo we kind of expect. Baltimore obviously ran them off the field. They were okay against the Jets. I thought they did some nice things, especially they were really efficient in the red zone. The run game was really good. But I don't think they were great. I thought that was a really close football game. And then they obviously blow Tennessee off the field after starting slow a little bit. Seattle kind of feels like they're more similar to the Jets than they are maybe the Baltimores of the world and maybe even Houston. I'm just kind of curious what, week to week, is Buffalo going to continue to build on this? They're a team that, generally speaking, if you get up on early, you can force Josh into some mistakes. You can, beat them. They're quite light, through the spine of this defense. But then obviously when the Bills get up early, they can go. They are very. They're not the Golden State Warriors. I don't mean it from a talent perspective, but very much like those Warriors teams. When they start hitting shots, it's like they catch fire. We've seen the Bills do it in years past in the playoffs, and where they don't punt for a week and a half in a row and things like that. So, kind of just curious what Mike McDonald, I apologize, kind of schemes up when with this group. And obviously a defensive mastermind, but I don't think the defense hasn't been great. They've done things like lose to the Giants at home, where the Giants were pretty clearly the better team, and they beat Miami, but they look great. It's Tim Boyle and stuff like that. So but then they've had other games where they've looked really good, and Geno's been really good, and the weapons look good, and the whole thing. So This is one of those games for both teams. I don't feel like it's not a gotta have it game, which is why it's like a little disappointing. You wish San Francisco or the Rams had pushed Seattle a little bit more, so they had to have it, or the Jets or the Dolphins or Patriots were in a better spot where Buffalo couldn't. They could afford to just, it's a non-conference game. They lose. But again, I do think this is a little bit of a statement of like, hey, Seattle could build a 1.5 lead in this division, or 1.5 lead already, because they didn't obviously beat San Francisco, but Buffalo, like, hey man, New England upsets the Jets and Miami loses this week, and you might be up, you might be coasting with a 3.5 game lead in the division by week 8. Right. So I just am curious. Josh has had a nice year, touchdown interception wise. I don't feel like he's been great overall. Like, I don't think play in and play out he's been amazing, but he's been really efficient, which is awesome. And then like I said, Seattle's a team that's still growing. You were higher on them than in the preseason, but I think part of why you were higher is like, hey, the roster is pretty good, but their coaching staff is going to get better and better as every week goes on. So it's a big test. It's one of the first tests for Seattle in this new regime of like elite superstar quarterback. What do you got? What do you got cooked up for him? That you've done in years past with Baltimore.
Josh has faced a Mike McDonald defense once. It was week 4 of 2022. Bills won that game in bad weather, 23-20. Allen was 19 of 36 for 213. Threw 1 touchdown, ran for 1, and also threw an interception. Seahawks had 3 takeaways last week. In the weeks 4 through 6, they had 1 total takeaway. Had 3 last week. Well, Maye is good. But you know what's made a big difference for them? Byron Murphy getting back. And there are some numbers with Murphy on the field versus not on the field, pass and run, where there's a stark difference. And look, other than his size, he probably belonged in the top 10, right? In terms of his overall production and ability in college and his size, and ends up whatever in the high, was that 18, 19, 20, somewhere in that ballpark. But he's dealt with some injuries, but when he's been out there, he's been a force and makes that defense much better. So he's in line to play. He's healthy. So that'll be interesting. And you mentioned Geno, most passing yards in the league, the 34-year-old former New York Jet quarterback.
Shout out to Geno, by the way. They got set up to poop on the Jets a little bit and didn't go for it. So shout out to him for not being.
I have grown to appreciate Geno, the journey that he's been on, and like even last year, it seemed like they were starting to be like, the magic's over. Trade for Sam Howell. And he still has his moments where he turns the ball over or does something ridiculous, but talk about having no fear. I mean, he's another one of those guys that we keep joking about the band, the cover 2 thing. Geno don't care about cover 2. Geno going to put the ball where he wants to put the ball. Let's move on to who cares about the actual game, which is Chiefs versus Raiders. But the Chiefs make the deal earlier this week for De'Andre Hopkins as a conditional 4th-round pick. 15 catches for De'Andre this year in 5 games as he's dealing with the knee, missed the first couple, 173 yards. It's not, we're not talking vintage De'Andre Hopkins, but when you consider he's going to be taking Justin Watson snaps and now Sky Moore, it looks like Sky Moore might be actually headed for some abdominal surgery. But when you consider the upgrade from going from those 2 guys to someone like Hopkins, who I still think has more left than the numbers tell you that he has left, the one question I would have with this is it enough if you're the Chiefs? Or are you still thinking about, say, Deontay Johnson from Carolina, who obviously, there's pretty much no one worth keeping on that roster, and he's in the last year of his deal, if they need to do more. But I like the move. It makes a lot of sense. They were interested in him 2 years ago before he went to Tennessee. So, him and Mahomes together, that should work.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying it's a bad move. I don't.
Doesn't move the needle for you?
No, well, just first of all, this roster in 2019, man, would have been special.
God, yeah.
Kelsey, Kareem Hunt,
yeah,
D-Hop, and all these guys have been awesome. I look at it, Juju, pre-busted knees. Look, the Chiefs needed to make a move just because I think it was like, hey, we're just really thin at the position, and like we got to get through the regular season more than even just the playoffs. Like I almost feel like this move's like, can you take the third down catches that Travis Kelce usually gives us, and can we like just put him in the garage basically until we need him? I'm not saying D-Hop is washed, but like he's not. I don't think he's the game changer he was, and
Oh yeah.
the
It was.
knees.
It's a hard. There's still a hard projection part of this because Will Levis was so awful. And,
yeah, he's been hurt, and the quarterback sucks. So it's like,
yeah.
Is it all a D-Hop? No, I mean, I think he's not as bad as his stat line this year, but I also think people are like kind of infatuated with like COVID, Kyler Murray D-Hop, and maybe Deshaun Watson in 2016 D-Hop. Like that's where I go back and forth where it's a nice move. It's a piece that you have to respect. It's a guy who can come up with a contested catch. He's a big play, guy, and Mahomes and him will probably build chemistry quite quickly because he's an elite quarterback mixed with a guy who's has a Hall of Fame chance. I also just think that, like, again, if you're looking at this move, I think Devontae has got way more left in the tank, and it's not just as a Jets fan, like it's just the tape and the body show that there's a lot more there. And I think Amari Cooper is a bigger move Amari Cooper for me moves the needle more for Buffalo than this does for Kansas City. But at least if you're Kansas City, it's like, hey, we did something. And again, this helps us now. And
would you,
might help us in the playoffs.
If you were Brett Veach, and we know there were conversations, would you have given up the second for Cooper Kupp?
So here's the issue that I face with Kupp. It's like D-Hop, the injuries feel like it's like he's going to just play through this knee and just be done at the end of the year and see, and kind of recalibrate a little bit. Cooper Kupp's a lot of soft tissue stuff, which scares me. And, him and Puka just got activated.
And the key word there's a lot.
It's a lot of soft tissue stuff. Cooper Kupp with him would have been really dangerous. And I don't think he's a better player than D-Hop is. It's just, my thing is like, I don't know. The Chiefs are just this offense where like, it's kind of a lot. It's like as many parts as possible to just everyone to do like a small different role. And my worry is like, if they had gotten Kupp, do they almost over feature him to the point where like other guys, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. The Kupp's a better player for sure. I worry like, does he have 4 great weeks and he pulls the hamstring again? And it's like, now we skip a second and we don't even have him for the playoff run. That's my one fear. That's why probably a lot of teams are like, I mean, he's great, but what are you getting out of Cooper Kupp right now?
Yeah, they're and look, it's when your team is 1-6 and people have to come up with content. There's been a lot of discussion about Cooper Kupp as a Patriot. Would you give up convince them that the 3rd round pick is essentially going to be the 2nd round pick because you're not your 2nd round pick, but it's going to be 60, whatever, 67, 68,
65.
Yeah, right. And would that be enough to move? And I'm like, why would you trade for someone who's 31, who's constantly hurt? He's a terrific player, but you're not that. You're not ready for that. Like,
I don't know that to me, the Ayuk thing was like, maybe you miss his entire great window, but at least you get like 2 or 3 years with Drake on his rookie deal. The Ridley thing, like, Kupp's 3 years older than Ridley, and again, Kupp's a significantly better player. But like,
you're not getting with the Ridley thing, and I know it's not working in Tennessee, so I've got a lot of people wagging their finger at me saying you wanted him. Again, you don't know you can't take what it was happening there and say, oh, it's what would happen here, and maybe it would have, because obviously with Jacoby Brissett, the offense struggled, but all that was money. People get so uptight about the money, and it's like, that's ridiculous. The cap goes up every year by exorbitant amounts. You can do whatever the hell you want. It's essentially a 2-year deal for $50 million for Calvin Ridley. Like, that's doable. They're sitting on the Patriots are sitting on $40 million for the cap space. Like, what are we doing? Like, fine. You drew a line. You didn't want to go any further, or maybe he just wasn't going to come here anyway because his wife wanted to stay in the South. Whatever the case may be. But like, when people wag their finger at me, I'm like, get out of here with that. Like, you can't. It's like, oh, Jonah Williams. I thought the Patriots should have signed Jonah Williams. Oh, Jonah Williams got hurt in Arizona. That doesn't mean he would have got hurt here. Like, it's just like, I can't. You can't translate the two. But I would think that Veach is staying on the line, and I would think he'd be calling about Deontay Johnson, because I can't imagine that he's worth more than a 3. And if you're going to be picking in the, that's the
It's a good
90s.
deal for Carolina. If that's what ends up happening, they give a 5 or 6 for him.
Yeah.
If you can turn him into a 3, like that's great GMing right there.
Right, exactly. And I would think the only reason they would consider not doing it is if they actually envision some sort of future with him. But what's the money going to be there? Like the Chiefs would be fine with him as a rental. Like, boom, done, whatever. See you later. If you help us win another title.
Hollywood Brown would look so good in this offense. He really would have.
Yep.
It's a shame. It's
yeah. I mean, I guess there's an outside chance, right, that he's available for them in the playoffs, but I wouldn't bank on that. Let's read about game time, right? Shall we? Yeah. Before we get to our last game and our picks. World Series tickets, which I think, as you told us on Monday or Tuesday, was like $2,300 for standing room only. Which
is going down on game time. So
see, there you go. That's it. Now that they'd say, give us a personal experience. You just gave us a personal experience. Game time is tremendous, folks. And they have this filter, Game Time Picks. Takes out the fluff, show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Will continues to do it because he's going to try to find his way to a World Series game, Yankees and Dodgers, which, by the way, just as a former coworker of mine, he tweeted at me. He's like, just wanted to say hello as he retweeted the idea that Red Sox fans enjoy this. It's either going to be the dreaded Yankees winning a World Series title or Mookie Betts and half the Red Sox team that's over there winning theirs. So that's
Mike,
great.
When's the last time we saw the 2 best players in any sport going head to head?
Doesn't really happen very often. It's kind of cool. I heard someone was trying to I heard some people like, oh, well, whatever. Who cares about
2004, it was like Ortiz and Miggy, but A-Rod won the MVP that year. So he wasn't better than like Miggy was the best. You know what I mean? Like
think about the star power in this series is freaking phenomenal. Shohei, Mookie, Judge,
there's
Soto.
5 of the 6 top 3 in both lineups. 5 of the 6 have won MVPs. And the only one that hasn't is Soto, who would have won the MVP this year if Judge was in the American League. Like, I don't know genuinely if we've ever. This is not being. That's without the hatred aside. This to me is the most premier baseball matchup we've gotten since 2003, 2004 Yankees Red Sox. We're like, these are the clear 2 best teams. They have every one of the 7 best guys outside of Barry Bonds in the league. Like, these games could be 19-16, and like it's not because the pitching's bad; it's because the hitting is so good, or vice versa. I'm excited for it because I think the sport needs it, and I think the sport needs attendance is up, TV ratings are up. Can they get a big number here at New York, LA? People just hate watching the Yankees, hate watching Ohtani, whatever it may be, or hopefully positively watching. But again, let's be realistic. We're in 2024, and people hate watch. They don't.
It's all about the hate watch. But yeah, if you want to go, use Game Time. All you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is Game Time. Last thought before we get out of here and make our picks. It looks like Tua is coming back this week. Started practice. The clock's on him. He gave a long 13-minute press conference. I believe it was on Monday. It was a little terse.
He was a little feisty.
Yeah, it was interesting. And like, I get it. You and I sat here when he got hurt, and there was this hue and cry to like, he's got to retire. He's got to retire. And we both said, it's none of your damn business. No. Like, if he gets cleared by doctors and his family is okay with it, then he's going to play. And that's his choice. He's a grown man. He makes a decision, and he made that decision. And during the press conference, there's some back and forth about he's not going to wear a Guardian cap,
which we talked about is overheated, and also there's no evidence it actually helps.
Yes, and that's the deeper part of this thing where the league is pushing that as a safety element, and a lot of the players don't believe it to be true. Yeah, so you have that aspect of it. He's a personal choice, not going to wear it. Period. End of story. Was asked about the people that are saying to him, like, hey, you should retire. And he said, I appreciate the love. I do, but I love this game. And I'm paraphrasing now. Actually, you know what? I think I have the quote somewhere. Where he said, hang on a second, people, look at this. I appreciate your concern. I really do. I love this game and I love it to death. That's it. He also talked about there being a bit of a gray area. And this was the one thing that sort of gave me a little bit of a flag in terms of the long-term impact of concussions and whether you're more susceptible once you get one or once you get a bad one, which obviously he's had several fencing moments now on the field. But at the end of this, I keep coming back to the idea that he's a grown man. He's legally allowed to play. And he said he had one conversation with his wife. No other family chimed in on it. And his wife was okay with it. So he's going to be back out there. And I think all of us feel like, let's hope that he doesn't have another incident. That said, it's probably wishful thinking.
Yeah.
He does, if you're into the X's and O part of this thing, he gives that team life. They haven't had life. There was a stat I heard today since he's been out, and that was in the second quarter of the second week of the season.
Yeah.
They've had 51 offensive drives. 3 of them have resulted in touchdowns. So
I think
even if he's rusty, he gives them life. But it's an interesting thing because there was so much, just, oh, he can't do it. What's he doing? People got to protect him. And I'm sorry, man. That's what he does.
I hope, look, at the end of the day, we all hope he's okay and successful.
Absolutely.
15 years in the league and all that stuff. No one's saying that. But Alex Smith and Teddy Bruschi had a stroke and came back. And I feel like everyone's forgot about that and had all these different things. And Bruschi was I needed to prove it to myself, not for anybody else, not for I couldn't live my life knowing that this took me down. And maybe for Tua, it's I need to finish the season healthy and then I'll reevaluate things. Mm-hmm. Or maybe, I don't know. There's a million other options. But at the end of the day, the people that are upset about the garden cat thing, and I saw plenty of reporters that are well respected, there's no evidence. It's very marginal at best that it's that it helps. And B, if it's going to overheat him and potentially lead to other symptoms for him, that's not good either. I think my biggest fear for Tua is not, I don't want to say it's not the concussions, but the hesitancy, the gun shyness of getting hit and that forcing you into bad throws, to happy feet, to missing stuff down the field and impacting your play to the point where you're not as effective. I don't think this Dolphins team is very good. They need him badly. The season's not over, but they're on fumes just like the Jets and other teams, yep. Cincinnati, et cetera. So yeah, look, I think we all hope he stays healthy. I think he's expecting a big time return, and it should breed confidence, and it'll be a really cool moment for him to throw his first touchdown and everything when he comes back. But we saw in 2022, I believe, when he came back, I don't think he was the same player the rest of that year at all. And, he threw some really bad interceptions and getting concussed against Green Bay in a game where he was really, really bad. So, yeah, I keep looking at this thing, Mike, and I'm trying to be reasonable and just take his feelings into account because that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Team doctors, independent doctors, his wife said he's good and he's good. Again, who the hell am I? But yeah, I'm more worried about the on-the-field play.
They know the risks.
Yeah.
It's like the people that want
to the first time he's gotten hurt. Let's be honest.
And it's sort of like a broader view of the league continues to try to claim they're concerned about player safety and want to clean up the game. And it's and these guys know what they signed up for. And yeah, if you could do something here or there that does make it a little safer, obviously, but it's a physical game. The dudes run into each other at full speed.
Yeah, when you overcomplicate it, you get guys hurt worse.
Right, exactly. So to your point, I think we all wish him good health, but quite frankly, his decision is his decision and his alone. Let's leave it at that. Let's get the prize picks. I still feel like my picks last week were golden, and then I didn't know that Pop Douglas was going to have food poisoning. Sorry, just didn't know it. I'm going to stick with a similar theme because one thing is very evident when it comes to Drake Maye. He loves himself some Hunter Henry. 32.5 receiving yards. More on that. I'm going to go a little off board here for you. Jameis Winston in a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, who have been inept offensively.
Oh, boy.
Well, I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to highlight the receiver here. Jerry Jeudy, more than 42.5 receiving yards, as he is essentially their number one receiver. And because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Derrick Henry, more than a half a touchdown. Scored in every game this year. Guy's money.
Yeah. I'm going to go over passing yards for Jameis Winston. More passing yards. I think Jameis Winston's terrible. A lot of Jets fans told me he's way better than Aaron Rodgers because they're pissed at Rodgers and the whole thing. That's the kind of week I've had. Nothing like a guy charged with sexual assault telling everyone else to not boo another guy with sexual assault charges. Good job, Jameis. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to go more on Jameis Winston. I think he is the ultimate YOLO ball guy. He does not give a bleep. It's the reality of it. I'm going to go more Bijan Robinson rushing yards. I know the Bucs are, coming off a tough game Monday night. They get the loss there. I feel like, Atlanta's going to want to pound the rock there. And then I'm going to go Daniel Jones passing yards at 199.5. He's much better on the road. That said, Pittsburgh is still a good defense. They're going to try to take away the over-the-top stuff. They're going to sit in a lot of cover 2, cover 3 stuff. And I know Neighbors is back, but that Giants offensive line, I don't know how they're blocking TJ Watt. The Jets did as good of a job as you can do on them as you possibly can, and they still put up 15. So
yeah, Dayball as of Thursday afternoon was still like doesn't really know what the offensive line is going to look like for this weekend. So that's never a good sign.
Josh Gazudu, whatever his name is, might be the worst player in the history of the NFL.
That is not great. All right, that's going to wrap up this edition of the All 32. He's Will Parkinson. I'm Mike Giardi. As a reminder, please like, subscribe, tell your friends, leave a review. We appreciate you, and we will see you on Monday to wrap up epic. I mean, this is like, I don't know how this isn't a primetime game between the Pats and the Jets. See you.